So I'd like to welcome you today to our webinar on forecasting and budgeting for individual giving. Today is a 30-minute quick overview of forecasting and budgeting delivered by our very own Head of Data Strategy and Insight, Helen Daw. Helen heads up our data strategy and insight team. If you've got any questions around data strategy insight, specifically around forecasting and budgeting, please do ask them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your, or wherever it is on your Zoom screen. It'll say Q&A and have two speech bubbles next to it. So any questions today, please ask them to Helen. And of course, if you want to speak to Valldata about anything to do around data strategy, do drop Emma Corbett a line. Emma's our new business director. I'll be happy to talk you through what you're looking to achieve in your individual giving fundraising and where we can support. So for those that don't know about Valldata, I would like to share with you, just very quickly, a little bit about who we are. And I am working out how to share my screen right now. I can't like it. Can somebody help? Share screen. There we go. Sorry, should know this. Share screen.
There we go.
There we go.
Working, Helen.
Okay. So forecasting and budgeting for individual giving. A little bit about Valldata. Well, our purpose is to help charities raise more funds for their causes. We do that through a number of different services that we offer, including raffle, weekly lottery, response handling, fulfillment services, digital scanning, direct debit processing, and data strategy and insight. We've been around for over 40 years and are very proud about the work that we do. We're very passionate about the work that we do for individual giving fundraising. We have over 75 active charity partners, many of whom have been with us for over 10 years. We're compliant to the highest standards for PCI, ISO, Gambling Commission, and we're very proud of the fact that we hold those high compliance. The data strategy and insight team have been active for over a year now, and we've conducted lots of interesting projects for our charity partners. And today Helen's going to talk to you a little bit about forecasting and budgeting. Over to you, Helen.
Thanks, Helen. If you can stop sharing, I'll get mine going. Lovely, thank you. Can you stop? Oh, there we go, lovely. Thank you. There we go. Brilliant. Okay, so yes, hello everyone. As Helen said, we're going to talk a little bit about forecasting and budgeting for individual giving today. I'm going to cover off some of the key areas, and then yeah, if you've got any questions, pop them in the Q&A, or likewise we can follow up after if you want to go into a bit of a deeper dive on any elements. Just give us a shout. So first things first, what's the point of it all? I'm sure many of you will know just how important it is, but essentially all our charities have to deliver its vital services, and to do that we need to understand what income there is available to spend, and also how much it's going to cost to generate that income but run the services. So from an individual giving perspective, it's very important for our charities that we work with to understand exactly what is achievable from an individual giving income generation point of view, what is needed to help deliver that income, and then off the back of that, obviously accurate income projections and accurate cost projections. Just get rid of faces, there we go. And then off the back of that, of course, it also enables you to secure the budget and the resource that you're going to need to be able to deliver that income into the charity and to support the delivery of those services. The other element, of course, is also helping to, I guess, manage expectations from people that aren't as closely as involved with individual giving, so trustees, other members of the charity. If you can project an accurate forecast and budget and the resource that goes alongside that, then it will enable your charities to understand exactly what it costs you to do what you do and how much money you can make and what goes into it. So, important place to start is always with the objectives. Any activity around fundraising and also forecasting and budgeting needs to be based on the fundraising objectives and goals that you're trying to achieve. We've talked before about data strategy and how that supports the success of fundraising goals and objectives. And that, again, kind of then feeds into the next stage, which is generating an individual giving plan of action and the forecast and budget that goes alongside that. So using your objectives and your strategies that are already outlined, you should be able to use the insights and data you've got to understand the products that you have in your portfolio, who your supporters are, and the journeys and the asks that you're hoping to take them on, and understanding the data sort of segmentations and the audiences within them. So once you've got all that information, which you should have hopefully from your overarching objectives and your strategies, you can start to take it a level down and get into the granular a little bit more and generate a plan of action, and alongside it a forecast and budget. Next key really is to think about the information that you're going to need to be able to do that. So you know your supporters, you know your asks, your products, you can start to plan out an action plan. What do you need alongside that to be able to actually forecast and budget as part of that? You're going to need your action plan, but then also all these elements. So an understanding of your database, your data volumes that you have within it, by the products, the key audiences, the segments if you can. And also outside of that sort of data volumes, again, also the sort of volumes that you might be able to generate from acquisitions. So from your social media, your digital planning, cold data, any other elements where you'll be able to bring data in by the product and the audience and the segment. Have a think about all of those and use your insights from the activity that you've done already to help you gather those information. Response rates, average gifts, costs to run something, costs to do something, and the cost per acquisition as well will be other key KPIs of information you're going to need to know to be able to generate a forecast and a budget. Of course, if you are new to this, the one thing just to add to that, you might not have any insights or data already from your previous activity to enable you to generate it based on what you know. In that scenario, benchmarks are probably where you're going to need to go. So we do quite a lot of benchmarking here. Have a look at some of our previous seminars and presentations that we've done. Quite a few of those have benchmarking in them. And also there are lots of other, speak to your agencies. They'll tend to have benchmarks that you can utilize to help build up the sort of information that you would need here if you don't have it from your own database internally already, or if you're venturing out into a new area, you want to try something new and aren't too sure what it's going to deliver for you. Again, go out to your agencies, to the wider marketplace, and try and get some benchmarks that you can work with. Try and build from the bottom up. I know just from other places that I've worked, actually, it's quite easy to be given a number that you need to achieve and quite often sit there and think, I just don't think that's actually possible. So if you can, always try not to make the activity fit a number, but make the number something is derived from reality. To try and start from the bottom up. Attaching your numbers to your plan that you think is achievable and what you want to be doing to deliver the objectives of the charity, rather than trying to aim towards a number which might not be viable for you and then end up meaning that you can't deliver services effectively or you're having awkward conversations. So it's much better if you can to be able to work from your insights, from your benchmarks, and build your forecasts and budgets and action plans up from there. So once you're starting that, using your strategy, your objectives, your plan of action, and your KPIs, you can start to detail out your forecasts and budgets based on the different products that you have. So your one-off gifts, your regular giving campaigns, your major donors, legacies, but also don't forget your engagement and stewardship pieces. They will take up income, take up budget, but might not necessarily deliver income. So yeah, don't forget about them. You'll need to allow some cost for that. We've got a couple of slides now, one on one-off gifts and the other on regular giving, which have just some key points to have a think about when you're starting to do your forecasting and budget. So on the one-off gifts, have a think about your warm data first. So your active cash, raffle, any other kind of one-off gift data that's coming through, and understand how many active you've got and what they tend to give. So use your volumes, your response rates, your average gifts by segments and audiences to understand what your base kind of campaign is going to deliver for you. So yeah, always start with your active and then start to think about what other data you want to be doing within your campaigns. So it might be that you're including some lapse data, maybe just once a year, maybe every time, to try and bring those lapsed cash givers back in. And also you might be trying to cross-sell. It might be that you are looking at opportunities across your base as a whole where you can start to cross-sell. So raffle and cash will go together very well. Legacy and raffle will go together very well. Regular giving and weekly lottery will also tend to cross-sell quite well. So you can start to test and think about other data that you can bring into your campaigns, and to then build up a more accurate forecast of what you think a campaign is going to deliver for you and how much it's going to cost to do it. Don't forget acquisition, of course. So alongside, once you've planned out your warm base activity and what you expect to get back from that, based on the insights you'll probably already have from your data around response rates and gifts, you can start to think about acquisition. So again, linking back to your objectives for your fundraising, are you trying to grow and get more people into your charity, or is it actually more around retention and lifetime value, in which case you might not need to be thinking about acquisition so much. But depending on what those objectives are, that's also the time to think about what acquisition volumes you might be doing if you are doing some, what average gift you're going to get back from that, and also the cost. So again, is there mailing costs or digital media costs to be thinking about? Make sure you're adding those in. The other key element to think about with one-off gifts when you're starting to forecast is your ongoing gifts from new people that you are bringing in. So partly from cross-sell, but then also from cold acquisition. Think about your play again rates, your give again rates. What do people go on to do, and what percentage of people will do that over time? So quite often you'll expect to get a 30% give again rate from direct mail new recruits within the next year. So that's kind of one stat. You should probably start to be building up these insights from your own data. So particularly with some of the new channels that we've done a lot more of over the last year, so digital, of course, being a prime example there. When people have come on to give to you online, what else do they go on to do? Can you start to understand how best to communicate with those people and then start to build that into your forecasts? For regular giving, there's a slightly longer list, but it's all really based around attrition, to be honest. Just a tiny little snapshot from one of our tabs from one of our regular giving models that we use. There on the right hand side, it's all about phasing and understanding recruitment and attrition with regular giving. So with one-off gifts, it's a little easier, to be honest. You've got a start and an end quite often that you can work within. You know it's going to cost you that much to do it, and you're probably going to get within that amount of time that much money back. And it's a case of how often you do things, when you do them, and being careful not to over ask and thinking about the data within it. With regular giving, it's an ongoing program. So you're starting to think about and understand and forecast what people do over time and when you're bringing people in. And again, channel will also come in here as well. So depending on where people are coming from and how you're recruiting them, they will have different attrition curves and different gift levels. And that's all something that you need to try and tie into your forecasting and budgeting. This is a lot more complex and an area that, yeah, we spent quite a lot of time internally trying to build models that really take into account when somebody comes on board and the attrition curves off the back of that over year one in particular, and no shows, and then moving along through into years 2, 3, and 4. So yeah, it's a really complex little bit of forecasting, but once you've got it right, you know, it's worth going into the detail and getting it right, because it will give you a much more accurate forecast and budget. The other thing to bear in mind here as well with regular giving is your stewardship and your engagement and thanking pieces. Again, as part of your one-off gifts and campaigns, you may be doing thanking, but it tends to be part of the campaign. Whereas with regular giving, it tends to be its own little campaign on the side. So your thanking or your engagement pieces at month 1, 3 and 12 will be their own individual campaigns, along with upgrades as well, of course. So there's a lot more to think about regular giving, and it's yeah, that's an area that is quite complex. So yeah, we have models. If you want to talk about that in any great detail, then yeah, just give us a shout and we can help. For major donors and advocates and legacy, we've got a little fundraising hierarchy there, and yeah, these are the ones that sit at the top. These are what we're kind of trying to grow our supporters into. These are really hard to predict, and it will be quite specific to your charity. So if you can, again, look at the insights from your own data and then predict out from there. If not, again, talk to your agencies, talk to other charities, and try and get a sense of a benchmark that you can use instead, if it's not something that you've done a lot of before. Same KPIs will still stand. There'll be response rates, there'll be gifts, there'll be data volumes to think about, but it is harder to predict, and things can come out from left field, particularly with legacies, as I'm sure you'll be aware. But try and base it on what you know, use the insights and trends that you have got, benchmarks if not. And again, with this one in particular, bearing in mind the context of the world around and allowing some contingency, COVID being a prime example, it led to a bit of a slowdown in the processing of legacies, which then led to an impact on some of the income coming through last year and into this year. So having a sense of what's going on in the world around you and allowing contingency off the back of that will be really important in this area, because they're much bigger numbers. Just some little bits to not forget when you're doing forecasting and budgeting. Innovation and testing. What we tend to recommend and think about is maybe allowing 80% of your budget that you require for your BAU, your normal delivery, with the income forecasted against it, but then allow some of your budget for innovation and testing. You want to be testing new channels, new ways of doing things, thinking about new approaches and new ideas, and you need some budget to be able to do that. But you also need to be able to fail. So it's really good to have a bit of a budget put in there, but not necessarily with very much income put against it, just in case it doesn't work. But it allows you to be able to try new things confidently without worrying too much about the impact if it doesn't work. Postage, don't forget, it's a really easy thing to forget when you're forecasting and budgeting, that you're going to have to pay for stuff to go out the door quite often. VAT as well, another easy one to forget. Your account management agency retainer fees, if you have those, don't forget to put those in, and allow tolerances. Nothing's ever going to go exactly as you think. So yeah, make sure you've got some room for flex in there. As I mentioned, considering the context of the world around when you're doing that as well. And maybe allowing that alongside the tolerances is really important. Another one is ROIs and impact on net income, particularly in regular giving. You'll be, although on one-off gifts as well, depending on the activity you're doing, you're going to be potentially recruiting, and it's going to cost you a certain amount of money that you won't necessarily make it back on straight away. So it's important to remember that net income might take a hit, particularly in year one or in the first campaign, and you'll make your money back over time, but you are going to be seeing a drop in net income initially. So important to make sure you're forecasting that accurately if you can. And then, of course, don't forget to track, monitor, report, and analyse. So understanding where it varies as you go through your year, what's changed, what hasn't, what's worked, what's not, what do you want to do more of next time, less of, and making sure you're ready for any forecasting reviews or the next year. Okay, so just to summarise what we've talked through today. Always start with the objectives and your strategy. Your data-led strategy should guide your plan of activity. once you've got that plan, use your data and insights to understand the data you've got, the data you need, typical KPIs, and or get some industry benchmarks to help you forecast. Try and work from the bottom up if you can, rather than trying to hit a number. It will be much more accurate and deliverable that way around. Always remember your warm and then your acquisition. So start with your warm, your active bases, forecast that out, understand what you're going to get back from that core audiences that you have across your different products, and then start to add in the elements around it depending on what your objectives are. Attrition and second play or give again rates are key variables to influence within your one-off and your regular giving, but always allow for variances, testing and innovation across the board if you can, so that you've got the ability to try new things without worrying too much. And then of course, track, monitor, reforecast, flag variances and learn for next time. Okay, just a little slide on us. As Helen said at the beginning, if you have any queries around fundraising in general, but obviously forecasting, budgeting in particular off the back of today, then just give us a shout. We're there to try and help. So yeah, do come on through. And that's Emma's details. She's our new business, so she'll field anything initially and then pop it through to me and our team here. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Helen. That was
no worries.
We've got a couple of questions come through already. If anyone else has got any questions, please pop them in the Q&A and we'll look to get around to them. We've got about, I don't know, just over 5 minutes to take questions. So the first one, Helen, was on the subject of building from the bottom up.
Yeah.
Is there a reason some people or places do over-optimistic forecasts? So the person that wrote this said that they've only ever seen it as setting yourself up for a fall, but that it happens so often.
Exactly that, actually. Yeah, and I've been in that position too, obviously not here, but in a previous life, where that expectation is, I can only assume that it's meant to encourage you to go above and beyond. But as you've said, the reality is that if you don't know where it's going to come from, it's very, very hard to be able to deliver it and achieve it. So I would definitely try and push back as much as you can in that scenario and rely on the insights and the information that you've got, either from your own internal data or from benchmarks, to present back to whoever it is that's trying to encourage you to go to that higher level, to explain why you've based it in the way you have, and the fact that to go above and beyond that would either involve extra budget for testing and innovation, or actually you just don't know where that's going to come from. So there needs to be an acceptance that might not be achievable. But go with the facts, and then hopefully you can have a sensible conversation around that one.
And maybe that comes on to the question from Sue Piper, who asks about the value of reforecasting.
Yeah.
That in many organisations, I think it's viewed as extra unnecessary, while it helps lots of people manage expectations as things change across the year. So yeah, how often do you think you should reforecast? Do you think, where's the value in that?
I definitely think there's value in it. As you've said, things can change. I mean, take COVID, for example. If people were trying to deliver in 2020, what they probably put into their budget without reforecasting, that it would probably have been very difficult to hit the same numbers in the same ways. So things can impact you from the world around, and therefore reforecasting to take account of that is, makes sense, absolutely. As well, there might be something going on internally within the charity that may impact what you've already forecasted. It might be that, hopefully not, but heaven forbid, there's bad press, and actually your cash campaigns take a bit of a hit temporarily whilst that's dealt with in the press. There's lots of things that can impact it, and reforecasting is really, really good to be able to manage those expectations, as you said. So if you don't address those things on the way through, you're just going to be having very awkward conversations at the end of the year, and actually potentially impacting the services that you're trying to deliver. So it makes sense to have those conversations and tweak things on the way, because it might be that you can put budget somewhere else to try and offset what you've lost in another area potentially, or you're doing really well and you can add extra services into the delivery of the charity. So yeah, reforecasting is good. How often to do it? I would say at least once halfway through, but probably quarterly might be a sensible way to review.
Check in and review.
Yeah. It might be that nothing changes, in which case it's fine, but yeah, it's good to check.
Probably, I don't know whether people use SWOT analysis or PESTLE analysis that would help drive some of that reforecasting as well, looking at what's going on both internally within your organisation and in the wider world to see what's going to be impacting. Would be helpful.
Yeah, good shout.
Quick question from Chris Sutton. What does second play mean?
Oh, sorry, it's kind of it's a term we use. It's a give again rate. So you've brought someone into either a raffle or a cash one-off gift campaign. They've given, and then you want them to give again. So it's about trying to encourage them to give that second gift. Once someone's given more than once, the retention rate of that person goes way up. I think it increases, I can't remember the stat now, I think it's like 60% or something silly like that, really high. So getting that second play or gift from someone on one of your one-off gift campaigns is really, really vital to engaging them with you on a longer term basis. So yeah, it means giving again.
Brilliant. Next question is, how do you forecast on a new regular giving campaign? Is it best to base this on numbers recruited or monetary, would you say?
Sorry, say that again. On
numbers recruited or on monetary, how much you're looking to?
Yeah, from an income perspective. Yes, I would go on volume. As always, it's a bit of both actually. So primarily numbers recruited. The key thing with a new regular giving campaign is understanding actually your average gift, as in the income that they are generating per person recruited, but then also the attrition rates that go alongside it. If you look at a typical attrition curve for a regular giving campaign, it'll go up. You'll have lots of people that don't even make their first payment, that cancel straight away as a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. And then within the first 3 months, up to about 6 months, you'll see the peak of your attrition happening. So really important to understand that and do everything you can to minimize attrition, but also understand per recruit what their average gift is so that you understand the income that you're going to make overall, but also that you might lose in your attrition. And that enables you to forecast more accurately numbers recruited versus numbers lost, but then also the income that is associated with that. So you can do it from both counts.
Now, so we've got models that support that. So if anybody wants some support with forecasting around regular giving, then absolutely give us a call and we'll see what we can do to support you around that.
Yeah, it's quite complex, that one. So having a robust model is really, really helpful. Otherwise, you're kind of doing it quite top level, which because of the phasing of when you're bringing people on and when they're attriting, then it can actually throw your forecasts off quite a way. So yeah, it's important to try and get that as accurate as you can.
Brilliant. We've got time for just probably another question. I'm sorry if we haven't got around to it. The next question is from Marie Campbell, and it ties in with the regular giving answer that you just gave, I think, but it's around well, not lifetime value, but how long a regular giver is likely to stick around for. Marie says her understanding is that it's about 6 years. What's your general understanding?
It will really vary depending on the channel recruited. So I guess the key thing really is once they've got past the first year, then you're sort of laughing from that point on. You know, the attrition rate goes right down. It's really steady from then on. If you're communicating and making that supporter feel valued, they're likely to stay with you for a long time. The tenure will last on out. So it will vary from charity to charity. It will vary slightly depending on sort of the profile of the person that's signed up to the regular gift, which will quite often link back to how they've been recruited. So it might be that you'll have different tenures depending on different audiences and different types of people. So 6 years is not uncommon. I mean, yeah, I would have said anywhere between 3 and 8. So I guess 6 is in the middle. So yeah.
So that segmentation piece around that is really important.
It is, yeah, to understand what they do in year 1 is really important, but then also how long they stay with you and ongoing attrition depending on how people have been brought into you and what kind of profile they are is, yeah, it will vary.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, we have run out of time. We've got a few other questions that have come through, so really huge apologies to those that have asked questions. We'll see if you could just, if anyone asked anonymously, if you want a direct answer, if you could just pop your name in the Q&A, and we'll look to get back to you by email separately and answer your question that way. We do have some notices about future events that are happening as well, just so you don't miss out. So if you bear with me just 1 second while I share my screen, and I will share that whilst talking through. Sorry, get rid of that. There we go. I'm trying to multitask and it's just not something I can do, apparently. There we go. So you should be able to see that. So first of all, we've got webinar feedback, and I'll just have that on there. If you want to scan that QR code, you can provide feedback on the webinar. But thank you so much for all your help, Helen, that you've given out today, and your advice. And thank you everyone for attending and asking questions as part of the webinar. We do have another webinar happening on the 23rd of November. There we are, there's a QR code for that. That's going to be an hour-and-a-half webinar from 11 o'clock till 12:30, looking at individual giving trends in 2021. We're going to be joined with by leading UK fundraisers who will be telling their stories and answering your questions as part of that. And we're looking to present some data around what you think as well about what's been happening with your charity and what you think is going to be happening in the future. So I'll just give you a second to scan it now, because I'm going to move on to a survey that we'd love for you to complete if you're able to. And that's an individual giving fundraising survey. We would really love for you to take part in that. The results of that survey will feed into the lowdown webinar on the 23rd of November. So you'll be part of the information that is delivered, and the insights are delivered as part of that, and the story that's being told. So we really, really look forward to seeing you on the 23rd, and we really hope that you'll take the time to fill out the survey. It should take between 10 and 15 minutes of your day. And we will send to you the report of that survey as a thank you for taking part, so that you can see the collective responses as well.